Okay, now we're going to do a couple more things with complex numbers. We're going to add and subtract them and multiply them. And then I'll save division for another video. Um, Adding and subtracting these complex numbers is very similar to just adding and subtracting polynomials. If you kind of treat I like a variable, you're just going to be fine. When we get into dividing, there is some slight differences. Actually, the I acts a little more like a radical when we get into dividing, but for this, I think you're going to be just fine because it behaves very similarly to a polynomial. So in this case, if we're adding these two complex numbers together, we add our real numbers together and get 11. Then we add our imaginary numbers together, which ends up being a plus I. Okay, negative 3I plus 4I. And this is our answer. When you're subtracting, be very careful. I'm going to actually rewrite this and distribute my negative here. Negative 4 plus 6I, okay, to avoid any mistakes. Negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6. Negative 6I plus a 6I is 0. So actually, negative 6 is my answer, and we actually got a real number from subtracting two complex numbers together. When we do multiplication, which is right here in these two examples, like I said, kind of pretend like they're variables. Use the distributive property, and we would get 4I minus 8I squared. Now here's the deal. You use the distributive property, you're good with that, but you can actually simplify a little bit more. Back in the first video, I talked about what I squared equals, and I said this is very, very important. If you remember what I squared equals, it actually equals a real number, negative 1. Super important. So if I squared is negative 1, what this really is this. You see that? Negative 1 is the same as I squared. So if that is the case, 4I minus a negative 8, okay, is going to be 4I, change the sign and add, going back to change the sign and add, it's going to be, look like that, 4I plus 8. Okay, and that is your answer right there. The next one looks very similar to multiplying two binomials together. So you're going to treat it that way. You're going to actually FOIL this, okay? So we're going to go, am I red? We're going to go first, which is 6, outer, which is a negative 4I, inner, which is a positive 3I, and last, which is a negative 2I squared. Now we got to do some simplifying. Okay, let's do the easy part first. Negative 4I plus 3I is the same as a negative I, okay, minus 2I squared. Like before, I squared is the same as negative 1, okay? So what we have here, oops, there we go, is we got to substitute negative 1 in for I squared. When you do that, you have a 6 minus I, negative 2 plus a negative 1 is plus 2. So now you can combine your 6 and your 2 and get that, 8 minus I. Okay? And that's how you multiply those together. So you're basically FOILing it out, but at the very last step, you've got to check and do some more simplifying and make sure that you substitute a negative 1 in where you see I squared, and then you have a little bit more real you have an extra real number to deal with to combine with this real number over here. So you guys can do this. I know you can do it. More to come.